Top or
Sure.
Yeah.
As we noted all day today, budgets are about choices. It's about which Ohioans we are choosing to invest in and who are we choosing to ignore or underfund. And this budget was very clear. It chose billionaires who own sports stadiums, it chose the wealthiest, highest earning Ohioans for income tax cuts, and it chose to go after our schools for diligently saving money, and it chose to put more and more of the tax burden on the people who can least afford it. We have to choose to invest in the people of Ohio who need us the most. That's kids going to school, it's parents struggling to afford the rent, it's seniors trying to age with dignity. And unfortunately, this budget did not choose those Ohioans. It chose wrong. It chose the people who didn't need our help. And so we were proud and disappointed to have to vote no. But we are in the legislature to fight for the people and the communities that we represent, and that's what we did today.
Okay, so when it comes to vouchers, I know that the Democratic Party has been very vocal about not wanting public money to go to schools that are for private students. A court just ruled that the Ed Choice program was unconstitutional. How do you feel that we're still going to put money towards these programs?
At the end of the day, what our caucus support is upholding our constitutional duty, which says that it is our job. It's not a nice thing to do. It's not, oh, if we have the money, when we want the money, we'll give it to that if we feel like it. It is our constitutional obligation to fund public schools. Every single one of us swore an oath to the Constitution, and today, yet again, we neglected the people of Ohio and that constitutional obligation. It does not say in the Constitution that we should spend hard-earned Ohioans' tax money on private schools to individuals who are clearly already paying for it. You can see the values that they are doing this budget when you look at the increases. 80%, more than 80% of our school students go to public schools. Private students got more than them in this budget. Thousands and thousands of kids got chosen to not be funded and to not do our constitutional obligation. And so it's so much bigger than just whether or not you want to go to a private school or not. It is our job, and it's a complete abdication of our duty, and it is students and homeowners that are going to be paying the price. And it's going to continue the fiscal irresponsibility and real concerns of us being able to actually meet the needs that are upon us.
What do you think about the court ruling?
We should see the court through. I think it's so demonstrative of this body's complete discontent for the rule of law to uphold the Constitution. They have had no problem saying to the Supreme Court in the past that we don't care what you say. They say it themselves, we can do whatever we want. So on the same, within 24 hours, they heard from a court of law that the way that using hard-earned Ohioans' taxpayer dollars to send to private schools was unconstitutional. They then decided to double down and give more money to that same entity that was just deemed unconstitutional than where more than 80% of our schools go to. That is who's representing us, and I don't know anyone can say that it is reflective of the people of Ohio.
Late last night, we also learned that there were changes made to the Modell law. And according to the Senate president, this will effectively render Cleveland's lawsuit moot, allowing them to make the move to Brook Park. So is there any reaction, I guess, to changing the law, changing it in the middle of a lawsuit, in the middle of the night?
I think it's very clear, and again, depending on the issue that is most convenient for my friends in the majority tends to be the issue that they have. We heard for hours today about how they love local control and that they're going to trust locals with those decisions and those who are closest to the people. In this budget, what we saw that the locals in my county are not supporting this proposal. Our city leaders are spending their dollars to fight this in the courts, and the Republican majority that does not represent that area decided that they know best, they know more than the locals, and that they should just change the law to get their perceived outcome, because at the end of the day, we have the power to make all of these choices. We could fund all the schools, or we can give money to sports teams. We can change state law that's been in existence for years and wildly popular just to ensure that our money can continue to go to billionaires. It is quite serious when you think about the power that is in this body and how misused it is. They elect us to work for them, and I think we should all be questioning who really it is that they're looking out for.
Go ahead.
What do you make of the argument that the other side promoted that the getting rid of the highest tax bracket is actually a benefit to all Ohio?
We already had the fourth lowest effective tax rate in the country. And we haven't seen this windfall. We have been hearing about trickle-down economics and the miracle of growth that they're going to bring for decades. The evidence is in. They don't work. It does not drive growth. What businesses say over and over again is the number one thing for them is the workforce. Are they educated? Do they have the transportation capacity? Is there the infrastructure for people to get to and from work? And are they supported at home by having childcare? Can they get to work? And on all of those metrics, Ohio is failing. This budget chose to underinvest in childcare at a time when we are already in the bottom quintile of states all over the country in access to affordable and quality childcare. So people can't get to work. The Chamber of Commerce told us it cost us $5 billion in lost revenue. So we know what works to drive economic growth, and it is not cutting taxes for people who earn 6, 7, 8 figures. It's as simple as that.
When it comes to asking for vetoes, what are your top priorities to have the governor veto, and which are the most realistic?
So unfortunately, there's no shortage of provisions that are going to do real damage to the people of Ohio. And to be very clear, a lot of the provisions that we brought up, and I think there was some misunderstanding on the other side, given that we did get this report at 2 in the morning last night and we voted on it within not even 24 hours. A lot of the provisions we talked about today were not lovely programs that maybe we could do if we had all the money in the world. The reality is that they traded $1.6 billion of current funds. They only could do that by raiding current monies, risking the fiscal stability of our state to give their wealthy donors money. Those programs include programs that are existing today that are going to have less money to meet the needs that are currently happening. Ohioans will have less for broadband in rural Ohio. Teacher recruitment to an actual crisis that we're trying to address that was a Republican bill and a Democratic bill last year. Rail safety that was hard fought after the East Palestine derailment last year. Kids learning to read. Currently, 40% of Ohio's students are not meeting our own benchmarks to read. When you talk about the workforce, we, the legislature, it's our job to fund public schools, and they're not able to read. Also, the governor wanted to give kids glasses, so maybe when they can learn to read, they can actually see the words on the paper. All of those things were cut. Those will not happen. Ohioans will have less of all of those things, risking our safety, actually taking eyeglasses from children to give billionaires and millionaires a tax cut. So it is our hope and demand that we serve the people of Ohio. We do not support the flat tax, and our governor, Mike DeWine, said it himself. He has not had one business leader ever. He is the governor of Ohio. I don't know anyone that's speaking to more business leaders in the state of Ohio than our governor. No one has said that they want our flat tax. If we want to support the programs, if we want to cut taxes, fine. Let's cut taxes the way Mike DeWine did and restore the $1,000 for families. But we're going to be focused on the immediate needs that actually are doing harm, that are taking money out of people's children's pocket. Right now, because of a decision made in this budget, 20,000 kids could lose health insurance. And I shouldn't say kids, because these are 0 to 3-year-olds, because their parents didn't fill out paperwork, could literally lose their lives in a state that has infant mortality rates worse than developing countries. Those are the provisions we're going to continue to review that is doing immediate harm today, because it is as false to say that Democrats just want all of these lovely programs. We want the state of Ohio to do its job and to take care of the people, and we're going to focus all of our vetoes on items that are going to stop harm, because it's unfortunate that that's the place that we're in. We are not going to solve problems, but at the very least, the governor can stop harming the people of Ohio.
The legislative calendar says you guys are coming back in like September, October, but there's a very real chance that with what the federal government's doing, you know, there could be significant Medicaid cuts. There could be a shift of SNAP that would, for the first time, require the state to pay into SNAP. So how are you guys preparing for a potential emergency budget session if it comes to that, especially when it seems like you guys didn't feel heard out by the majority caucus this time around?
The way to prepare for federal cuts was to fund those programs through the state budget. We knew those holes were coming. We knew they were coming for Medicaid. They're already coming for Medicaid. They're already coming for our schools. Schools today, yesterday, last week, the headlines are they're having to lay off nurses and teachers. Rural hospitals are already closing. These cuts are already happening. And we are not powerless here in the legislature. We could have filled those holes. We could have invested in Medicaid. We could have shored it up. We could have said to our schools, you know what, the feds are going to cut your summer programs. We will step in and make sure that kids have things to do in the summer, that they have food to eat and after-school programs. Instead, we responded to the cuts that are coming from the chaos in DC with cuts of our own. It is a cruel double negative. And unfortunately, that's how the legislature chose to prepare for the cuts coming out of the federal government. But if we come back for an emergency budget session, we will fight for the same things we've been fighting for the whole time. Making sure that every kid in Ohio has access to a high quality education, making sure that parents and grandparents know that they can drop their kids off at high quality early education and childcare they can actually afford, not just in suburbs, but in urban and rural areas too. We want to make sure that our Medicaid system can actually fund the health insurance that people need, that we're expanding who has access to it, including the babies 0 to 3, including the people who are at risk of getting kicked off now because they couldn't figure out the paperwork. So our priorities are the same. We want everyone in Ohio to have a good life, a safe community to live in, a school they can trust, opportunities for their kids to get educated and grow their careers, homes that seniors can afford to keep. That's a vision for Ohio that I think we could all get behind, and that's what we'll fight for every time we come in here.
And if I could just add on in terms of the Republicans, if and when the feds pass a bill that inevitably leads to multiple billion-dollar holes in our budget, what they're going to say is that those are federal programs, and if the feds don't want to pay for them, it's not our job to fund them. And it's really important to understand what we did here today. Not only did we just cut programs, we pulled levers that we pulled in the Great Recession to keep our budget stable, to make sure we didn't have massive layoffs, to make sure that our schools remained open and kids could get educated. That is how dire it was. That's the last time we raided unclaimed funds in this magnitude. Taking money from the rainy day fund to pay for a permanent tax cut for millionaires and billionaires. So let's be very clear. They are not dumb. They are intentional. They know what's coming. And what happened here today is going to allow them to try to make the excuse that we have no money at this state. It's not us. Those are the feds. And I want to say it loud and clear that because of the vote today, our Republican colleagues are culpable in any cuts that come down for the federal government that they choose not to fund, because we used almost every lever to put us in any kind of predicament. And that is going to be our job, to make sure when people are hurting in Ohio, that the people of Ohio know exactly who did it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.